Hello, this is Kwame from Graphic Sketch. Today I will do an artist review of the Kuretake No.8 brush pen that I had picked up on a family trip down to Charleston, South Carolina last year. I will first show you how the pen looks and then do a little drawing sample later on. Here we go. Here's the pen. It's pretty long. I was surprised when I first saw this pen. I suppose that that's for the Japanese drawing style that they do over in Japan, where they have these long pen barrels and you have those long sumi brushes that are made of the goat hair. The Kuretake No.13 does have a much smaller body, but that may be for a different style of writing. Although, as I had said earlier, these two sections are the same in both pens. Plastic all around. In fact, I don't believe this pen has any metal on it at all, except for the agitator beads that are in the converters, although those aren't part of the pens. Speaking of converters, this pen takes a proprietary cartridge and converter that you cannot interchange with standard international cartridges and converters. Kuretake does sell their own brand of converters and cartridges as well. Actually, cartridges, yes, but converters, many people I've heard online claim to use a platinum converter in their brush pens. I bought one in the past that I had previously used on a Kuretake No.13 brush pen, and that did work very well for a while. I believe I did have some issues with leakage, but that may have been a dud because many people recommend it. So I would say go ahead and try it. It's about $13, $8 to $13 as of now. It's not super cheap for a converter, but a small price to pay to use your own fountain pen inks in this pen. Speaking of which, these are not waterproof, so don't use these if you're wanting to paint over with watercolor on your artworks. Getting back to how long this pen is, it goes from about the base of my hand to the end of my longest finger right here. So it's pretty long, but the plastic body does balance things out very well in terms of weight. I can hold this in my hand unposted. Feels great for long and short writing sessions, as well as posted. Becomes pretty long, I would say, but the plastic cap hardly adds any weight onto the back, so it becomes a very smooth, easy, and comfortable writing and drawing experience with time. There is a small section right here. I've seen folks take these parts off on the very top on the No.40 and 50, but not on the lower end models such as these. I wouldn't recommend trying to disassemble this whole area here. I haven't tried it, but if you have any issues with ink drying in the entire inner feed here, and you have to, it's up to the user's own discretion. Let's get to some drawing. I'll go ahead and start off with some light hatching marks. As you can see, this pen has a very fine line. I'll try some side strokes right quick. If you go slower, you can get a much more saturated line. And if you go fast, you can get this very dry brushy effect. After you do those thick broad lines, it does tend to lose its point a little bit, which you can fix easily by just doing some very soft strokes to get it back into a very sharp point. This pen does use real bristles, so you have to ensure that you stay very careful with maintaining this, or else it can fray over time. Although these do take quite a bit of care as well, because these bristles aren't quite as durable as the felt tips that are found on many other types of pens around the price point of this pen. Speaking of which, this pen retails for around $8 to $10 as of July 2023 in the USA. You can find this pen on stores like Amazon and eBay. As I had said, I had gotten mine at a brick and mortar retailer in South Carolina. Makes very fine lines. Over time, all of these brush pen nibs tend to lose their point quite a bit. especially the synthetic one such as this. But if you are someone who likes to have a synthetic tip, you can always buy these alone as the entire section for around $15 USD on Amazon, as well as buying a sable version for a very similar price on Amazon as well. I have not tried the sable version personally, but speaking from experience using sable brushes on watercolor pencils, watercolor brushes, they do tend to have a much finer tip and hold a little more ink at a time in the brush tip itself. So it might provide a smoother experience with ink flow, constantly rushing down faster. Although I'm not sure. Haven't tried it yet. But overall, this pen is very useful for making very fine and very broad lines. Has a great ink flow. How wide can I get this brush pen to go? That's nice. These cartridges last a pretty long time actually. I cannot recall the last time I had changed out this one right here. Just to recap, this ink is not waterproof, so do not plan on buying this type of ink with your pen if you plan to do watercolor washes over it. Also, on the inside here, it's plastic threads. It is not metal threads. So plastic on plastic is generally a good thread style to accommodate long-term use. Got it. Overall, I would say that this is a great choice for anyone who's wanting to try out their first brush pen and not experience the fraying and plasticky nature of the felt tip brush pens that exist in lines such as Faber-Castell and Pigma. The Micron series does have some brush pens as well, but they are not this high quality bristle type that you see on this pen and the number 13 as well. As an artist recommendation, I would absolutely want anyone who's also doing watercolor brush work with ink to use this as well, as this can use many waterproof inks that are used in fountain pens as long as you use the converter. Or an extra way to do it is to also just take out these old cartridges after you finish using them, get a blunt needle and fill it up with any ink. This method does work quite well with these because these are very robust ink cartridges. As you can see, I cannot squeeze this cartridge and deform it anyway with my own 2 fingers. This is a very hard cartridge, long lasting as well, and has an agitator bead inside of it for any inks that have a very large particle size, usually with pigment inks such as the platinum pigment inks that are sold in their line. Coming around at $8 to $10 USD, this pen is an absolute steal. I would buy it again if I lost this one, which I may not, hopefully not, because I got this big bag right here from Profolio. Although that's a side topic though. Yeah, great pen, very cheap, very robust, doesn't have any cracks, has a little air hole at the bottom for any ink that gets leaked down, which I've had no experience of whatsoever. It's a very strong, hardy pen, the Kuretake number 8. All right, have a good day. Definitely get this if you're in the market for a brush pen. See y'all.